Police say the gunman took a sniper-like position, firing onto the parade from a roof using a high-powered rifle.
And then you heard people screaming, bodies down, run for your life. That's what I heard.
Dr. David Baum, along with Dr. Lauren Schechter, were at the parade with their families, initially running for safety, then turning back around and treating the wounded.
All of a sudden, there was a stampede of people coming, and then I realized it was gunshots, and I literally just thought to myself, this is how it's going to end.
A story that's all too common here in the United States, where mass shootings happen literally every day, and the holiday weekend was no exception. A 22-year-old gunman opened fire from a rooftop during a 4th of July celebration in Highland Park, Illinois, killing 7. The death toll has actually increased to 7 and injuring 38. And the wounded ranged in ages from 8 to 85. Now, the suspect has been identified, and after a manhunt was arrested. His name is Robert Crimo III. He also, again, climbed to the roof of a business using a ladder in the alley. He fired more than 70 bullets, and as of now, we don't know what the exact motive is, although the authorities have ruled out a possible terrorist attack. They're trying to figure out what motivated him, and apparently he is cooperating with the authorities. He also posted all sorts of violent fantasies online and had been visited by the authorities 2 times in recent years. He had also legally purchased the rifle that was used in the attack in the Chicago area. He had another rifle, apparently also bought legally, in the car with him as he was taken into custody on Monday evening, about 10 miles away from the scene of attack. We have a few more details in the next video. Let's take a quick look at that.
Authorities launched a county-wide dragnet looking for the shooter. More than 8 hours later, a North Chicago police officer spotted the person they were looking for, attempted a traffic stop before the man led police on a short pursuit. This video appears to show the man whom police say can be considered a suspect on the ground, taking him into custody. Police identified the alleged shooter as 22-year-old Robert E. Crimo III. He grew up in the same Chicago suburb he targeted. A number of social media posts from the suspect have been uncovered, including disturbing music videos.
So I want to just briefly talk about the social media posts. They might give some insight to what his possible motives were. And again, it's still under investigation. Crimo's most recent video posted to YouTube showed him in the aftermath of a school shooting. It ends with him draping himself in an American flag. Another music video, he's a wannabe rapper, showed a cartoon depiction of a man wearing a shirt with his YouTube channel's logo on it, holding a long gun and being shot by police. Crimo had his own Discord server also that featured a politics board filled with nihilistic political memes. The most recent post before the shooting, which was posted in March, was a picture of Bud Dwyer, the Pennsylvania state treasurer who shot and killed himself on live television in the late 1980s, along with the caption, "I wish politicians still gave speeches like this." And as I mentioned earlier, he had been investigated, his own family members had asked the police to show up to their home because he threatened to kill everyone in that home. And they also notified the cops about the fact that he had a giant inventory of weapons, including knives, a sword. All of that was confiscated as the cops visited his home back in 2019. The cops also visited him yet again in 2020, I believe it was, because of similar complaints about his behavior. In fact, the school had mentioned that he was showing some concerning signs. He had emotional issues dating back to when he was in middle school, and the family was offered resources as a result of that, but they declined to use them. His parents opted to homeschool him instead. And as I mentioned, cops visited him in 2019. They also took a dagger and a sword from his possession. And even though Illinois has a red flag law, it's only 2 years old. So it's unclear whether or not that law would have been in effect at the time when the cops had visited his home, a few years ago. Cenk.
Yeah, okay, so a number of things here. First of all, is he a Trump fan? Well, he's got a couple of pictures with the Trump flag, one of which you saw in that video, draped on his back, and appears to be right wing. The police have declared it to be not terrorism. Why? Because he's white, let's be honest, okay? So how would they know if this radical murdering right winger is not a terrorist? They haven't even talked to him yet. I think that they just mean, oh, we found out he's not Muslim. I got news for you. The FBI says the #1 source of domestic terrorism is white supremacists, right wingers, extreme right wingers. So no, the authorities are not correct at all. We have no idea why he did it, and terrorism is definitely a possibility.
Can I just jump in on that? Because look, I think it's wrong to say this was definitely a terrorism or terrorist attack. We just don't know. But it is interesting that on one hand, the authorities say we're still investigating this, we don't know what the motive was. On the other hand, they've already ruled out that this is a terrorist attack, which I think is fascinating because it's like, how do you say that if you don't know what the motive is yet?
Yeah, right? They do it. Yeah, it's super obvious. Everyone who isn't dishonest knows. They do it based on skin color and based on his religion. If he was Muslim, everyone knows they would think that terrorism was the #1 reason. Again, without even talking to him. They don't know, they say they don't know why. But if he was Muslim, they would have called it potential terrorism. He's a white right winger and they say it's definitely not terrorism. No, the bias is massive, okay? So now, other issues. So red flag laws that Anna mentioned there. Where? What? They're not gonna do any red flag laws. Everything they passed was junk, okay? They did a junk, useless bill that was a Republican CYA operation, cover your ass as if they're doing something.
You're talking about the congressional,
Congress, yeah.
Right, so what I was referring to in terms of red flag laws is in Illinois specifically, they passed a state red flag law.
Yeah, okay, right. God bless their hearts. But the Illinois case proves why the federal one is going to be totally useless. Because the minute you go and say, hey, someone's a psycho and threatening to kill people, we're gonna take their guns away, the right wing goes nuts. They go apoplectic. They're like, how dare you take beloved guns away from beloved right wingers who threaten to murder people, free speech. And you all know it. What are you pretending that's not the case? Right wingers, you're really gonna be okay with somebody saying, hey, the authorities should take away guns from someone who says they're gonna kill people because they're mad about politics.
No, they're not okay with it, which is why we don't have red flag laws in many of the red states. And that is particularly the reason why we don't have a strong red flag provision in the legislation that was signed by Biden. That was the congressional legislation. It included funding for states that have red flag laws, but it did not implement a federal red flag law.
I mean, it was the most useless piece of trash legislation you could ever imagine. So of course, nothing happened. Now I'm gonna go to our members because they make 2 excellent points and I love doing the show with you guys. Opinionated wrote in what? No 60 bullets to stop him? Of course, he's white. That gets to a story we're gonna do about Jalen Walker a little bit later in today's show. He was an African-American guy. They shot him well over, they fired at least 90 rounds and hit him 60 times, including when he was dead on the ground for seconds at a time.
And they handcuffed him after the fact.
And afterwards they handcuffed him. In this case, guy murders 7 people, wounds 36, taken in, no problem, not a shot fired. I don't know if they took him to Burger King afterwards or Red Lobster or wherever they took him, but somehow the white right wingers are always captured without a single shot being fired. It's a black guy who, by the way, turned out to be unarmed. He's got 60 bullet holes in him, 60, okay? The correct answer is not to put 60 bullet holes in white people either. The correct answer is for the cops to do their jobs and not go around shooting black people for no reason. Okay, and then Dirge wrote in, wait, the shooter used a ladder. Quick, call Ted Cruz and tell him that he has a better scapegoat than doors, ladders, burn all the ladders. Now, I mean, it's funny, but it's true. Is it the ladders? Is it the doors? Is it the windows? No, you morons, it's the guns. Everyone knows it's the guns, except for the goddamn liars that we humor for no reason.
So a few other things I want to mention, including what he did to essentially blend in with the crowd or disguise himself. So right-wingers have seized on this as a talking point, but I want to make sure that we get out ahead of it and give you the information necessary. So in order to disguise himself, he decided to dress in women's clothing. And so the right wing is trying to make a point about how dangerous transgender people are, of course, which is just a distraction, a way to sow more hatred and fear toward a powerless group of people in this country that are already being victimized and persecuted by these political leaders. But the fact of the matter is he is not transgender and he wore women's clothing to blend in with the crowd and disguise himself. And the authorities believe that he was planning this shooting for weeks. And the reason why I brought up all of his social media postings and his history with mental health issues, his history with emotional issues, dating back to middle school, is that despite all of these signs, nothing was done to really ensure that he wasn't a threat to himself and a threat to others, right? So it's just incredible because I can't help but think about all of those stories that we covered years ago involving random high school students who would literally post rap lyrics from rap songs on social media, and then they would get a visit from the authorities, some of whom, by the way, got arrested as a result of their posts on social media. It just blows my mind that we see this happen more and more often, where they post insanely disturbing things on social media, on Discord, on 4chan, on whatever forums they have. Is no one monitoring these forums?
Of course not, because then right-wingers would howl my freedom of speech to talk about murdering you.
No, but the point that they make is, no, I mean, look, this is a mental health issue and there were warning signs. Why didn't anyone double check and see what was going on here? That is anything, any scapegoat, any excuse to avoid having to talk about gun legislation.
Look, can we keep it real? If we're talking about mental health issues and people threatening to use their weapons and acting in ways that lead you to believe they might be mentally ill, you would have to really take away the guns of about 25% of Republicans. They're online nonstop going, I got Second Amendment rights. I'm gonna go put a bullet in you, try to take my gun away from me. Try to take it, government, cops, military, I don't care. Come and try to take it. I'll bury you, I'll kill you if you try to take away my guns.
Super pro-life of them, by the way.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, I mean, red flag laws. You're threatening to murder cops. Nope. Second Amendment, First Amendment. Second Amendment, First Amendment. I got freedom of speech to threaten to murder everyone I know. And then after somebody does it, you go, oh, well, they should have checked in on that. We tried to check in on you lunatics. And nope, don't check in, but afterwards, don't take my guns. I got it. You love the idea of being able to murder people. I got it. And because of that, you let everyone have a gun. My parents went to Turkey today. And they were worried about, hey, is our political situation okay? Is everything gonna be safe? Are you kidding me? Hurry up and get to Turkey so you can be safe. It's a madhouse filled with massacres here. Who in their right mind would want to stay here? Guys, wake up, because the media is helping to brainwash you. This is the most dangerous country in the world. Our gun homicide rate is like 64 times other developed nations. It's nonstop massacres as far as the eye can see, and no one's gonna do anything about it.
But don't worry. We are allowing the government to make decisions on behalf of women in regard to what they can do with their bodies, because this is a very pro-life country. Again, I just really want to drive that point home. The very politicians who want to control women's bodies, who want the government to get involved in what a woman can do with her body, what a woman decides between her and her doctor, they then turn around and say, no, we can't do anything about guns because in reality, we get paid off and bribed by weapons manufacturers, and we obviously money talks, and we're gonna look out for our donors. That's the real reason. But then they talk about their hobby and how much they care about the Constitution and the Second Amendment, ignoring what the Second Amendment really says, which is right to bear arms and a well-regulated militia. They always forget that second part. But more importantly, everything else in the Constitution is just up for interpretation for the right wing, right? When it comes to the separation of church and state, not as important. I mean, it's in the First Amendment, but not as important. Let's funnel public money into private religious institutions in the country. That's what the Supreme Court just ruled. No, we're in a lot of trouble. Because it's not just about finding opposition, members of the opposition party, in this case, Democrats, to fight back. I mean, we know they're weak, we know they're incompetent, we know they're not gonna fight back. But it takes more than fighting back now. The entire system needs to change.
Yeah, look, talk to anyone outside the country. Because you have a skewed perspective inside America because of our media. You talk to people outside the country, they think this place is a madhouse. They can't believe that the right wing has turned this place into an absolute mental asylum, and the Democrats have done nothing to counter it. So to Anna's point, they'll say, wait, your right wingers say that they're pro-life, but they don't mind 19 kids being murdered in Texas because they want their gun rights.
Profits over people.
They're like, well, but they just literally don't get it. They're like, well, how could you be pro-life if you say, no, I want there to be AR-15s that mow down your kids 24/7. They say outside the country, we would never allow our kids to be massacred on a regular basis. What is wrong with you people?
I'll tell you what's wrong with them.
And then on top of that, you claim to be pro-life in favor of saving kids' lives? They're like, it just doesn't make any rational sense at all. What is wrong with you people?
So let's just make it very clear for the international community so they know exactly what is wrong with our politicians. They have been and always will put the profits of corporations, in this case, the profits of weapons manufacturers, over human lives. Profits over people, that is what this country stands for. America stands for profits over human lives. Profits over human lives, profits over human lives. Everything else that the right wing engages in, and to be quite frank, even Democrats engage in, is just culture war stuff to give you the illusion of governing, which is why they've focused on stripping women of their reproductive rights. Not because they actually care about human lives, not because they actually think that zygote is the equivalent of a viable, living, breathing human being, but because that's all they can campaign on. The culture war stuff, and that is what they do. So that's why there's that weird disconnect, that huge conflict with, on one hand, Republicans saying, no, we want looser gun laws, even though we know more and more people are gonna die as a result of that. While simultaneously they claim they're pro-life while wanting to control the bodies of women.
Yeah, last thing, can we show the picture of that victim with the blood splattered on her face?
It's graphic, just want to give you that warning. But here's the 18-year-old who posted this, and she says, I can't believe I was in the middle of a mass shooting. I felt safe at this parade for 18 years, and today I got hit with a bullet and nothing will change in America. This is ridiculous. By the way, she's been going to the parade for 18 years, uncertain how old she is. But what I thought was interesting, Cenk, is in response to that, you have a Huffington Post reporter, Anne Brenoff, saying, I am sorry this happened to you and to everyone else there. It's awful and these shootings just keep coming at us. Please register to vote if you haven't already. Why? Look, I'm not discouraging people from voting, but vote for what?
Vote for what? Losers?
Vote for
loser
who?
Democrats? Loser Democrats who, after this, passed the impotent red flag law and door laws and whatever dumbass things Ted Cruz wanted? For what? For what? For Democrats who are never gonna fight for us? But I wanted to show that picture because the right wing says we should allow this to happen all the time, but we're pro-life. Can you show a picture? These is because the pro-life folks think that this is no big deal. No big deal at all. They have a hobby and they'd like to shoot feral hogs and varmints. And so this is no big deal to the quote unquote pro-life crowd. World's biggest hypocrites.